Welcome back to Compleat Magic. I'm Evan, and in this series we're going to be going over our picks for the most fun commanders in every single color scheme. Each episode will select 5 commanders that we believe are extra spicy and extra fun. In this episode we're going to be going over mono red. Let's do it. And first up on our list we have Anti-Blight Bad Influence. This is a 2/2 flying Devil Advisor. It costs 2 generic and 1 red. Basically, whenever a source you control deals damage to you, you put that many plus and plus counters on Anti, and then you can pay 1 generic and 1 red and tap Anti to remove X counters and deal X damage to any target. So you're really going to benefit from dealing damage to everybody. It's going to pump Anti up super big, and then you can use Anti as a little bit of a nuke and start taking out big threats or just shoot people in the face. So our first category is going to be things that punish people for using lands, which everybody has to use. Mana Barbs, most people know it. It's costs 3 and a red. Whenever a player taps a land for mana, deals 1 damage to them. So that's a great way to start hurting everybody and build Anti up real quick. And then the Ankh of Mishra, whenever a land enters the battlefield under someone's control, it deals 2 damage to them. And then Zozu, kind of a similar vein. When a land enters the battlefield, it deals 2 damage to the controller, but this is on a creature. And then next up we have Descent into Avernus. It's an enchantment that at the beginning of your upkeep you put 2 descent counters on it, and then each player makes X treasures and deals X damage to each player, which is the number of descent counters. So it starts off with as 2, and then the next turn it'll be 4, and then 6. So it's going to start doing a lot of damage real quick and give you the treasure to start doing some shenanigans with Anti. Roiling Vortex, another pretty good enchantment. Beginning of each player's upkeep, it deals 1 damage to them, and if they start trying to cast spells for, without paying its mana cost, it's going to deal 5 damage to that player. And you can also pay a red to make people not be able to gain life that turn, which is helpful. And then these are what I define as the pingers. So these are all creatures that are going to be able to tap to deal damage. Spear Spewer only costs 1 red, but it's a 0/2 with Defender. You can tap it, deal 1 damage to each player. And then Orcish Artillery and Goblin Artillery literally do the exact same thing. Tap it to deal 2 damage to a creature or player, and deals 3 damage to you, which normally that's a huge drawback, but with Anti, it just makes Anti bigger, and so it's not a drawback at all. And then this next category is just spells that deal damage to everybody. Flame Rift for only 2 mana, you're going to deal 4 damage to everyone. Earthquake and Fault Line do the exact same thing, but Fault Line costs 1 extra red to cast it, and it's at instant speed. But it's going to be able to nuke most of the creatures and each player. And the cool thing is, Anti has flying, so Earthquake and Fault Line won't hurt your poor Auntie. And then Fires of Mount Doom. This is a pretty cool legendary enchantment. When it comes in, deals 2 damage to a target creature. And then you can pay 2 and a red to exile the top card of your library. You can play that card, and then it deals 2 damage to each player. So this is a way to kind of get card advantage and continue to ping everybody just over and over. Super awesome in this deck. Basilisk Collar. This is great because you can attach this to Auntie and give her Death Touch and Lifelink, or you can attach it to one of your pingers, which is really handy too, so you can gain back a lot of that life that you're losing with everybody else. So that's kind of the main feature cards of this deck. I think it's very unique because, obviously with red, you like dealing damage, but the ability to naturally, passively generate a huge flyer and a nuke on a stick with your Auntie is really. Next up, we have Norin the Wary. So this is a 2/1 human warrior creature that only costs 1 red, and says when a player plays a spell or a creature attacks, remove Norin the Wary from the game and return it to play under its owner's control at the end of turn. So this is really cool because basically if anybody tries to kill Norin or even just attack you, it's gonna bounce and come back at the end of the turn, and so it's almost impossible to kill. So we're gonna take advantage of these enter the battlefield effects to build an engine to slowly just churn your opponents to death. Super unique, I think, and a fun take on mono red. So first up, we're gonna get some extra benefits from those ETBs, which are just going to come naturally with Norn. So first up, Woody Roastmaster, 3/2. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, deal 1 damage to each opponent. Perforos does the same thing, but it deals 2 damage to each opponent, and it's an indestructible enchantment that can become a creature if your devotion's high enough, and also pump your creatures up, which is handy. And then Impact Tremors, same thing as Woody Roastmaster, but on an enchantment. So you're going to want to stack a few of these kind of effects together. So you're doing 2, 3, 4 damage during each person's turn, just naturally, and people don't have a way to deal with Norn. And then you can also add on some amplifiers like Torbrand, Mechanized Warfare, and Sulfim to deal even more damage when Norn starts coming back in the battlefield. So basically, you're just going to want to stack these up, stack in the Impact Tremor type effects, and just let Norn go to town. And then you can also add on some additional cards like Genesis Chamber. So whenever Norn comes back in, you make a 1/1 colorless mirror artifact creature token, and that's also going to trigger those ETB effects. So this is a way to kind of really ratchet it up and actually start to develop a pretty big board state. And then Panharmonicon, you know it. Basically, whenever Norn comes back in, or a mirror from the Genesis Chamber or anything like that, you're going to get an additional trigger because of the Panharmonicon effect. And so that's just going to help you drain your opponents faster. And then Gimli, 1/1 double striker. When Norn comes in, you're going to put a +1/+1 counter on Gimli. And then whenever Gimli deals combat damage to a player, you make a treasure token. So Gimli's going to get real big real quick. One turn around the table, it's going to get 4 +1/+1 counters. You're going to have a 5/5 double striker. So that's pretty cool. So I really like Norn. There's a few different ways to go, but this is kind of my preferred way, is just building this engine that is very hard to deal with because of Norn's natural evasion, and then just slowly draining your opponents. Super fun. And next up we have Homura Human Ascendant. And I'm sorry if I butchered that name. It's a 6-drop, costs 4 colorless and 2 red for a 4/4 human monk. Basically, Homura can't block, and when Homura is put into a graveyard from play, return it to play flipped. So we look on the flip side, it becomes Homura's Essence, which is a legendary enchantment that says creatures you control get +2/+2 and have flying and fire breathing. So fire breathing says you can pay 1 red mana to give it +1 power. And so this is a really cool effect to pump up all your creatures, give them flying, and be able to pump them up even more. So the kind of theme around this deck is being able to kill Homura as soon as it comes in, so someone doesn't like Swords to Plowshare or something, and then getting a wide army that's going to have evasion and then just swing in for the win. So starting off, first category is those free sacrifice effects. We got Ashnod's Altar and Phyrexian Altar to give you some mana for sacrificing Homura when it comes in. And then Culling Dice is one of my favorites because you're really only going to want to be sacrificing 1 creature. So you can tap it, sack Homura, and draw a card or 2 later. And then you can also use fling effects. As soon as Homura comes in, fling it and deal damage straight to their face, or there's fling effects to go at a creature. Kazul's Fury is great because it's a fling effect on a land, so you're not wasting extra spot. So definitely want to slot that one in there. And then next up we have some creatures that make a lot of little weenies. Tilanali's Summoner, probably butchered that one too. It says whenever it attacks, you may pay X and a red. If you do, create X 1/1 red elemental creature tokens that are tapped and attacking. And then at the beginning of the next end step, exile those tokens unless you have the City's Blessing. So in Commander, it's pretty easy to get the City's Blessing. So hopefully you'll be able to keep those elemental creatures. But when you have Homura flip, those 1/1s become 3/3s with flying and fire breathing. So that's going to be really deadly. Anax, kind of a similar vein, except it benefits when a non-token creature dies. So if you have this down before Homura dies, you're actually going to make 2 3/3 flyers just for Homura dying, which is kind of an instant board state. And Rapacious 1, this is an absolute game ender. Because it's already a 5/4 with trample. That makes a little 0/1 Eldrazi spawns when it hits. But once it's pumped up and has flying, no one's going to be able to block it. And it's probably going to make 7 2/3 flyers. And the game's pretty much going to be over. Love this card. And then one thing you definitely want to do is have haste for your little tiny creature tokens, which are going to actually be mid-sized creature tokens with flying. Anger is a good one. Just has to be in your graveyard, and you got to have a mountain, and all your creatures will have haste. And then Urabrask just automatically gives all your creatures haste and makes all your creatures your opponents have come in the battlefield tapped. So this deck's all about being aggressive. So that second ability to have them come in tapped is actually pretty backbreaking. And then all 3 of these cards deal X damage to each creature without flying. And some of the last 2 also do to each player. But the key is you're going to want to basically do this one-sided board wipe by killing all the non-flyers, because all your creatures hopefully will be flyers, and then swing in for the win. So gotta love the one-sided board wipes. And then these last 2 are just absolute game ender cards. Insurrection, it's an 8-drop, but you get to untap all the creatures on the battlefield and gain control of them. They get haste. If you have Humura Flip, they're also going to get +2/+2 flying and fire breathing. So that's going to super win you the game on the spot. And Temps with Vengeance. I love this card in this deck because you're going to make X/1/1 creatures with haste. And each opponent's going to make X/1/1 elemental creature tokens with haste. Which everybody who does, you're going to make more. But the benefit is all yours are going to be bigger and have flying. So they're going to have this army of landlubbers that's not going to be able to block your flyers, and you're just going to win the game. So this card's amazing. I love this deck idea. It's definitely different, and you should give it a shot.
Number 4 is a classic red commander, Heartless Hidetsugu. He's good at one thing and one thing only, handing out plates of pain to everybody at the table. You're going to want to brush up on your math skills because odd numbers matter here. He rounds down his damage, so if somebody's sitting at an odd number, they'll be able to survive even if you start to double the damage, which we're going to look at here. Dictate, Gratuitous Violence, and Furnace of Wrath are all sticky because they're enchantments and they do what we need it to do. They double the damage to all players. But there's also a new card. We have Sulfum. For Heartless, this card is a game changer. It came out of Phyrexia All Will Be One, and it makes it so that the damage doubled is one-sided. You can also make this guy indestructible too if you discard from your hand. Ultimately, there's a lot of cards that double damage now, and you want to include as many as you can. But you also want to protect Heartless for as long as you can, and give him haste so that you can use his ability as soon as you cast him from the command zone. For that, we have Swiftfoot Boots, Lightning Greaves, and 1,000-Year Elixir to let you double up. And you could just go the spicy route and deal out pain to everybody, including yourself, or you could opt to include some ways to mitigate the pain for yourself with Dark Sphere, Glacial Chasm, and Lich's Mirror. And last but not least, Heartless Hidetsugu costs a whopping 5 CMC, so you're going to need some ramp if you want to get him involved in every game at the pod. So Generator Servant is a great ramp card here in red, and it gives him haste, so it does 2 things that we need to do. So it's one of the top cards to include in here, and you'll also want to include a bunch of rocks, as many as you can, to get Heartless out on the table as quickly as possible.
All right, last but not least, we have Slicer Hired Muscle. So this is a Transformers card. It's a 3/4 robot that costs 4 colorless and a red. It has double strike and haste, which is really cool. But the best part about it, and kind of the theme of the deck, is the last bit says, at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, you may have the player gain control of Slicer until end of turn. If you do, untap Slicer, goad it, and it can't be sacrificed this turn. If you don't, convert it. So it also has the flip side that you can cast for 2 colorless and a red by using the more than meets the eye casting cost. And that backside is Slicer, High Speed Antagonist. So it's a 3/2 with first strike and haste. Has Living Metal, so as long as it's your turn, this vehicle's also a creature. And then when it deals combat damage, convert it into combat. So you can actually get Slicer down pretty early by casting it on this side, hit someone, flip it over, and then start the madness. So what you're going to want to do with this deck is equip Slicer with all the coolest gadgets and gear and hand them over to your opponents and have them bash each other's brains in. So this first category is some really cool equipments. Commander's Plate is going to give Slicer a huge power and toughness boost and give it protection from every color except red. Tenza's great, gives Slicer +3/+3 and trample for a pretty low equip cost. And then Mithril Coat is going to give Slicer indestructible, which is incredible, and then also has indestructible itself. So it's going to make Slicer almost impossible to kill. And the next group is ones that give Slicer a power boost and some sort of evasion, because you're going to want Slicer to hit people in their face and not be just chump blocked. So Madcap Skills gives a +3 power boost and menace. And then the next two both give a +3 power boost and trample. So that is incredible. And then this next group, we got some ways to get added benefits from Slicer full swinging at people. So Shiny Impetus gives a little bit of a boost and also gives you a treasure every time Slicer attacks, which is probably going to be 3 or 4 times around the table. Gold Vein Pick, same thing. A little bit of a boost, get that treasure token whenever equipped creature deals combat damage. And then Sticky Fingers, ton of value on a 1-drop, gives it menace. Whenever it deals combat damage, you get a treasure token. And then if they somehow kill Slicer, you draw a card. So much value. And then this next group is all about card draw. So Mask in Memory, when Slicer deals combat damage, draw 2, discard 1. Infiltration Lens, you get to draw 2 cards if Slicer gets blocked. And then Rogue's Gloves, when a creature deals combat damage, you may draw a card. Pretty simple, but might be dealing damage 2 or 3 times around table and help refill your hand. So this last group is just a couple really good cards for this deck that's just going to help you get over the finish line. So Jessica, that 0 ability, will allow you to target Slicer, which will say till your next turn, if that creature would deal combat damage to one of your opponents, it deals triple that damage. So Slicer already has double strike, so this is really going to knock some people out. And then Errantry, which this card looks like it was just custom made for this deck. 2-drop enchantment, you put it on Slicer, gives it +3 power, and it can only attack alone. So this is going to really shut off your opponents. They're not going to be able to swing with any other creature besides Slicer. And Slicer is going to be a 6/4 with double strike. That's just going to bash people's face in. So I love this deck. It's definitely doesn't feel like mono red, but is a really cool way to kind of make use of like a goad type ability and in a really unique way, I believe. So let us know what you think about this deck, and let us know what you think about all of these decks in the comments below, and which mono red commanders we missed that are super fun. So definitely encourage you to subscribe to the channel if you like these videos. We're going to be continuing the series with the mono colored most fun commanders. So thanks for watching, and until next time, it's Compleat Magic. Have a good one.